The Man in the Cell. It was a humid summer night in 2025 when the sheriff's car pulled into a dusty street of Pinewood, a small town where whispers carried faster than the wind. Inside that car sat Marcus Green, a 24-year-old black man with rough hands and tired eyes, accused of a crime he did not commit. The accusation was theft. A jewelry store had been broken into, and the town wanted someone to blame. Marcus fit their choice: young, black, and poor. As the sheriff dragged him into the station, Marcus kept repeating, "I didn't do this. I was home with my mama." But no one listened. His voice was drowned out by the weight of the town's prejudice. They threw him into a cell. No evidence, no trial yet, just suspicion. The cell was small, with one iron bed and a cracked wall where rainwater trickled in. Marcus sat there in silence, his mind racing. He thought of his mother, who depended on him to fix the roof, chop firewood, and earn money from odd jobs. He thought of his little sister, Janie, who asked every night if he would read her a story before bed. But now, behind cold bars, he feared he might never see them again. Day after day, Marcus was dragged out of his cell. The sheriff questioned him harshly, pounding the table, demanding he confess. "Just admit it, Marcus," the sheriff snarled. "You'll save yourself trouble." "I didn't steal anything," Marcus whispered, his throat dry. But each denial only hardened the sheriff's gaze. To them, Marcus was guilty because he was there, because he was him. One evening, they threw another man into Marcus's cell. He was older, white and dishevelled, smelling of liquor. His name was Thomas Hale. Thomas had been arrested for drunken, disorderly conduct, but unlike Marcus, he would be out in the morning. At first, Thomas laughed at Marcus. "You're wasting your breath, boy. No one here cares what you did or didn't do." But as the night wore on, Marcus told him his story. How he'd been at home fixing the roof when the break-in happened. How his mother and sister could testify. How no one would believe him. Thomas listened. For the first time in years, he sobered up. He saw in Marcus not just a prisoner, but a young man fighting for his dignity. When morning came, Thomas was released. As he walked out, Marcus thought that would be the last time he ever saw him. Weeks passed. Marcus's case was rushed to trial. The courtroom was filled with townsfolk whispering. The prosecutor painted Marcus as a thief, a danger. Witnesses lied, saying they saw a man who looked like him near the store. Marcus's lawyer, assigned by the court, barely spoke on his behalf. When Marcus was allowed to speak, he rose with trembling hands. "I didn't take anything," he said, his voice cracking. "All I have is my word and the truth. My mama raised me better than to steal." The jury looked at him with cold eyes. To them, the verdict was already decided. But then, a voice rang out from the back of the courtroom. "I was with him." Heads turned. It was Thomas Hale, the drunk from the cell. But today he stood tall, clean-shaven, wearing his best shirt. Gasps filled the room. "I was drunk that night," Thomas admitted, "but I saw Marcus fixing his mama's roof. I passed by his house before I stumbled to the tavern. He couldn't have broken into that store. He wasn't anywhere near it." The prosecutor tried to dismiss him, calling him unreliable, but Thomas didn't back down. "I may be a drunk, but I know what I saw. This man is innocent." The room grew tense. The judge leaned forward. Marcus's lawyer, now wide awake, seized on Thomas's testimony. It was enough. The jury hesitated. Doubt crept into their minds. After long deliberation, the foreman stood and said the words Marcus thought he'd never hear. "Not guilty." The cell doors opened. Marcus walked out into the sunlight, free. His mother wept in the courthouse, clutching him as though she'd never let go. Janie hugged him, asking if he'd still read to her that night. Marcus smiled through tears. "Every night, Janie." But his eyes searched the crowd for Thomas. The older man stood quietly at the back, as though unsure he belonged there. Marcus walked up to him. "Why?" Marcus asked. Why did you come?" Thomas swallowed hard. "Because I've done a lot wrong in my life, but letting them take you for something you didn't do, that would have been the worst." They shook hands, a bond formed in a place where hate had almost. Years later, Marcus Green became an advocate for the wrongly accused. He visited prisons, spoke at rallies, and told young men to hold on to hope, no matter how dark the walls around them seemed. And whenever he told his story, he always ended the same way. Justice doesn't always come from the powerful. Sometimes it comes from the least expected place, a stranger in the shadows, brave enough to speak the truth.